When we think of wellness and illness, many of us tend to imagine them in stark contrast to each other, when in truth, there's actually more of a continuous progression between the two. Depending on how sensitive we are to our bodies, we may or may not notice certain signs of physiological distress that our bodies are putting up for us to see. Because of this, we may see these times as silent before the illness unveils itself. In order to better understand the motion from the state of wellness to the state of illness, we are going to depict it in a very simple and basic diagram. Well, what basic components of the human experience contribute to the experience of wellness versus illness? Most of us recognize causes of illness as environmental ones, external ones. These include bacteria, cold, heat, situations and relationships that present as physical and emotional stressors. These, as well as numerous others, embody what we can call the insult or the injury. This black shield here we will use to represent the defense. And we can think of this in many ways, including the immune system, the skin. However, we can also think of this as the aura and the energy field, which, when operating most optimally, typically neutralize all negative effects from the environment. Finally, we have the responder, or the internal self-healer, which is the being itself and includes the mind, the body, and the spirit, and all of the actions taken by the mind, the body, and the spirit in order to produce healing. These may include deciding to rest, taking medicine, changing a belief system or thought process around a situation that has become stressful or damaging to the health. These are all actions that the natural healed responder would take in a case of injury or insult. So I challenge you to remember to raise each of these components of wellness and illness past the physical level into the level of the mental and the spiritual, so that you can fully understand the total all-encompassing roles that each of these components is playing. The injury is largely environmental and very clearly affects the responder and the responder's defense system. The defense is a self-taught or learned interface that exists between the responder's inner world and the responder's outer world as a way of preventing attacks from making their way from the outside world into the softer inner world. And finally, the state of the healer, the responder, is based on nature and nurture. This means it consists of the core soul of the individual, the egoic personality, as well as beliefs accepted from the words and behaviors of the nurturers of said entity. So, when we speak about mental, physical, or spiritual dis-ease, these are the components that we will be referring to, and we will call these the basic components of wellness and dis-ease. Throughout this and many other videos and talks, you will notice that I will try to remember to keep the hyphen in between dis and ease. This is because when we typically put words together, sometimes we can forget the true message behind the spelling of the actual word. Dis-ease is a state of having one's ease disturbed, whether it is your physical ease, your mental ease, or your spiritual ease. And what is ease? Ease is perfection. Ease is alignment. Ease is truth, and ease is health. Ease is acting in total alignment with the true needs and desires of the mind, the body, and the spirit. So, you might ask, what causes the state of dis-ease? Well, it's just what it sounds like. The state of dis-ease is when we are operating out of alignment with the true needs and desires of our mind, our body, and or our spirit. Among numerous other behaviors, it includes all people-pleasing behaviors, thinking thoughts that throw our hearts and moods into turmoil and self-doubt, and even following and believing in paradigms which are unfamiliar to the core universal truth. These are all actions and states of the responder, which unwittingly to many can be a strong contributor to the state of dis-ease within. In general, the causes of dis-ease include insult or injury, which overwhelms the individual's defense and response system. It can include an inoptimal defense system, which either feels like it cannot defend itself or is a hyper-reactive defender. Or disease, as we have mentioned, can come from an insufficient or inappropriate responding system. Whichever the case, consistently living outside of one's state of physiological ease leads to eventual imbalances and misalignments, and ultimately illness. The state of illness is a state of prolonged and unchecked dis-ease. It's a state when more aggressive healing measures must be taken, as the mental, physical, or spiritual compensation has become insufficient. In a spiritual and metaphysical sense, when we talk about healing disease or illness, we actually lean more into talking about alignment. In a state of alignment, everything in the aura and the energy fields flow in and out in a state of balance, just the way that the spirit intended on original incarnation. This means that when we speak of alignment, we are speaking of aligning ourselves with our most original, most true, most powerful state. This is the state of true health. So when we speak of aligning ourselves with this original and ideal state, what do we mean? The most potent and powerful and effective way of doing this is to acknowledge the existence of unconditional love. Unconditional love is truly the purest energy in the universe. It is the core of energy. It is the truth of energy. It is what creates light. However, many of us have experienced a profound barrier to recognizing, receiving, and giving this kind of love. As a collective, it is hard for us to even conceptualize the idea of unconditional love. Many of us were not raised to give or receive or expect this kind of love from any human as well as the universe. Many of us were not even raised to believe in the universe. And so there is, in many people, a deficiency in allowing the light of unconditional love to enter the energy field and to transform it. Many individuals are raised believing that they must say or do or be a certain way in order to be loved. This is an exact contrast to unconditional love, and this is the origination point for that pervasive lack of belief in unconditional love that we see in the world. This lack of belief in unconditional love and inability to allow unconditional love in to completely transform the energy field is the cause of initial distortions in the responder healer. This means that all disease begins on a spiritual level. If the responder becomes distorted, the responder then generates a defense system that is also distorted, as well as making it difficult for the responder to recognize and deal with insult and injury in its environment. This is why opening up to recognize and receive this kind of love from the universe is the most important inner work that one can do on the spiritual journey, especially in the case of an individual who was raised without an unconditionally loving upbringing and without awareness of this kind of love. The love is an energy, and if we can let that love energy in, we can allow it to influence the responder. Now, remember that in the beginning, especially early on in life, the responder is highly influenced by the environment. But it is important to recognize that as the flow of the life journey continues, the responder becomes more empowered as the influencer of its own environment. This is why it is essential to let the love energy in, because if the love energy can transform the responder, then the responder can subsequently transform its defense and its environment. You might call this the technique of manifestation, law of attraction. Some people refer to this as inner work. Some people refer to this as their twin flame journey. However, all of these and many others have the same basic notion, allowing in unconditional love energy to re-instruct and realign the inner self healer. So let us redepict these components now. First, we have the distorted responder. We have the responder's unhealthy defense system, born of distortion and beliefs in effort and stress rather than love and ease. And finally, we have the worsened environment. This is to emphasize how the unrecognized wound of not feeling one with unconditional love can cause one to continuously create environments that reenact the insult and injury from the initial formation of the wound. Now, the inclusion of the love of Source, the universal love, unconditional love energy, the inclusion of this energy coming in from behind the responder has a triple action of transforming the healer, the defense, as well as the environment. And I'll change the arrows for the more negative environment so that they don't look similar to the calm, smooth arrows of Source's love. The recognition of this divine love energy brings in the concepts of self-love, of self-healing, of manifestation and transformation, possibilities, timeline jumping. All of these stem from the recognition of the single universal core truth, which is love. Some of the states of dis-ease and unwellness that we sometimes take for granted, such as painful menstrual cramps, acid reflux, stress, cold symptoms, aches, pains, frustration, depression, anxiety, judgment of self and others, hatred, even increased inflammation. These and many more can be traced back to an acute or chronic failure to recognize and ingest unconditional love. Now, this video is not meant to take the place of the advice of a licensed care provider. However, it is meant to encourage you to recognize the power and potent healing ability of unconditional self-love and to employ this to experience massive forward movement and transformation on your healing journey. The bottom line is believing in love and allowing our thoughts and beliefs to flow towards that vibration stimulates alignment and promotes true healing. Thanks for listening. I hope this has helped.